Hey everyone, Amina here with the Float Small Business Podcast, speaking with executive coach Lisa Kroll about how she's gotten creative as a small business owner. But I know that she's also got some really great advice about leadership and management in hard times that I think we can all really benefit from. Thanks so much for this, Lisa.
Thanks, Amina, for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Can you help us all that are listening to this podcast right now understand a little bit better what it is that you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I am a coach and a facilitator, and I work mainly in the area of leadership. But here's the thing is I look at leadership as more of a mindset and a way that you show up. It's not about a title, right? I have been in situations and have coached people who are several rungs down than someone else, who shows up more as a leader than someone else. Okay. But essentially what I do with the majority of my clients is I work with them to dare to discover the kind of leader that they want to be. Because, and oftentimes that might fly in the face of the leaders that they see around them, the leaders that they've had, right? And so they have to go through this process of self-awareness, increasing their awareness of who they are, their strengths, their weaknesses.
Yeah.
I tell people when you're a leader, you are always being looked at, which means if you're doing the right thing, you don't even have to tell someone the right thing to do. Right. They can just watch you and they can see the impact that you're having or the outputs that you have based on how you're showing up.
Yeah. I think that's so needed right now because employers are having these incredibly difficult conversations, whether it's about the survival of the business, about stepping up in a bigger way than maybe you ever have as a leader or as an employee. And I think those are interchangeable. And having discussions about furloughing teams in such a way that they want to come back when this is all over, if they can. And I feel like leading by example and showing, not just telling. It's the idea that actions speak louder than words. I think that's critical to these kinds of moments.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed about that when it comes to communication, because I do so much work with my clients on communication, is often I realize that clients are not saying the reason. They're not, how can I put this? They're saying the thing that they think they should say, right? Mm-hmm. But they're not taking it the extra step. As in the reason why they're saying this thing, they're not sharing that. It takes me back to this quote of, and I don't remember who said it, which is, we judge ourselves for our intention and we judge others based on their behavior. Ooh. Right? Yeah. Let that one sink in.
Yeah.
Because we all do that. We all do that. And so what I often find is a client will say, well, I said this. It's like, okay, well, why did you say that? You know, what made you say that? Oh, well, it's because of this. And I was thinking this, and I want them to know this. And, you know, I'm telling them this because I want them to know I care about them. I'm like, okay, well, did you share any of that you just told me? No. Why? You already have all that information. What is preventing you from saying that thing out loud?
Yeah.
Right. And I, yeah.
And what is stopping them from saying those things?
I think there's so many different things. There's fear. There's maybe they don't think that that's how leaders talk, but it speaks to transparency. And there is a point, there are absolutely things where you can't share those things. But I think they happen a lot less often than what our behavior is. And so one of the things I tell my clients is, if you're one of those people that often gets misconstrued because the gap between your intention and how your message is received happens to be larger than someone else, right? Because there are some people who, God love them, it's just like that gap is just bigger for them than other people.
Those are frustrating people.
It is.
I know some of those.
It's frustrating for them too, because they're like, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
And the reason why I know so much about this is because I feel like I'm one of those people. And I tattle on myself all the time. I say, hey, my intention in saying this is X, because that gives you the insight into, and hopefully the understanding that I may be saying this not very well, but can you give me the benefit of the doubt because I just shared with you what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
And I may not have done a good job.
Yeah.
Right. So I can tattle on myself about my intention.
Yep.
Right. Sometimes people just say all of their opinions and their perspectives, but they don't say, this is all in service of this thing that I think is really important. They just assume that everyone knows, because in their mind, it's the reason why they're saying everything.
Sure.
So how could you not know this?
Yeah.
Well, you haven't shared that part.
I could see that people with egos would find it hard to admit, I might not be communicating this right. And B, people who have fear around showing vulnerability would have some trouble with that too. And
I think the leaders that show vulnerability, and this does not equate to I have to show all of this emotion, right? If guys are equating that to I'm not going to cry in front of my employees or things like that, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how do you share, for instance, let me give you an example. So let's say that the owner of a company sends out an email about here are the things that are going to happen. People are going to be furloughed in cycles, and it's information that we all need to know, and there are probably good reasons why you're doing this, and we all kind of understand why you're needing to do that. But if you took the time to have us kind of enter your world, because here's the thing, we're all kind of egocentric, and a lot of times employees are going to think, well, I know I'm here, you pay me to work for you, but you're kind of here to serve me in some way. Like you should be thinking about my experience.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I tell leaders, it's good to have them kind of peek into your world, right? And think about the things you had to consider while you made this decision.
Yeah.
Like bring them in on the process. Wow, I considered this. I know this is going on in our organization. I know we were really excited about this. And in light of that, I'm disheartened to have to make this decision.
Yep.
Here's why I made this decision. Here's how I made this decision. And again, it's not like everything. It's not opening up the entire kimono, but it's letting them into a little bit of your experience,
right?
Which lets you not just be someone that's really far away that I can't relate to.
Yep.
It increases your relatability.
And I'm sure it also makes those employees feel like they've been part of the process now. Like they can own a piece of that decision, even if they weren't involved in the decision-making process. Now they can feel a sense of small ownership over it and maybe feel more okay with it.
Absolutely. And especially if you're able to call out, here's when I thought of all of you in the process, right? And that's actually something else that I talk to leaders about, because I think in this age of everything is collaborative and everyone should give input from the very beginning, I think sometimes leaders take that a little too far, and they forget that sometimes you just have to make the decision, right? You just have to make the decision, and then you can share with everyone how you came to that place and how you thought of everyone and the organization. And that's one choice, that you 100% make the decision. Yeah. Sometimes you decide, okay, I'm going to make most of the decision, but I also need to bring everyone and get everyone on board. And so I'm going to come in with about 80% of things done. I'm also going to share how I got there. And then I'm going to tell them the space that I've created for their input.
Yeah.
And so then now you're distracting them from the 80% that you actually did, which they might really appreciate because it saved probably a lot of time. And then they're able to contribute to this 20%.
Yep.
Sometimes you may come in and it is appropriate for you to say, hey, I put some thought into this, 10%, we're going to build the 90%, the rest of this together. Let's do this, right? But it's about discerning, when do you do each of those? Those are just 3 examples.
Sure.
But when do you do each of those, right? Because being a leader is not always having a collaborative decision. That's actually not being a leader. Also, being a leader is not making every single decision completely on your own.
Right.
It's about discerning when and how much.
And I think people are having difficult discussions now. And unfortunately, I have a feeling that businesses are going to continue to have to make some hard decisions moving forward. Yeah. And I really hope that people have a chance to step back, think about how they can or whether they should involve their teams in those decisions, and do it with compassion and with vulnerability, and just be open.
And just to put a finer point on that, it is, let's say that you have to let someone go, right? It is literally simply the difference of you know what's going on, and so this next paycheck is going to be your next paycheck. You're just kind of stating facts, but inside what you feel like is, I wish this wasn't happening.
Yeah.
You've been such an instrumental part of our organization. It's been incredible to watch you grow. I was hoping to watch you grow for another 5 years. Like, this is not taking anything away from the fact that you have to let this person go, right? But you get to share some of your feelings and leave them with something else other than just the facts.
Yeah.
Right? And these are not feelings that I'm asking you to make up, and those might not be your feelings, but I bet you have some that you're not sharing. Yeah. And so how would the tone of that conversation be a little bit different if you were to fully show up instead of being like professional Lisa as I terminate someone? It's like, how do I bring my whole self, the part of me that is sad that this is happening, the part of me that is crushed that if I do get to reopen, you may not be available anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going to happen, and if you do want to hire them back, let them know. Don't just hope. Just be like, I hope that we get to reopen and that I get to call you and that you are available, because I'm going to call you.
Yeah.
Right. And even if you aren't able to do that, they get to leave knowing that you want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, Lisa. Thank you for all of these really amazing insights. I hope, even if it just helps one business, one leader, one person, absolutely. I think that that's enough, but I think it'll help a whole lot more than that.
I hope so too.